All right, welcome to this Q&A again. Welcome everyone. This Q&A. Interesting observation. First, I'll thank all the well wishers on my English birthday. Today happens to be my English birthday, but real birthday is Erev Shvi Shal Pesach, so it's going to be a week from Sunday night, the Chaf Nisan, which is the day before the end of Passover, but whatever. Today is my English birthday for what it's worth. Again, want to thank everyone for all the well wishes. Someone made an observation, whatever, interesting post, and I want to go through some of it because I think whatever sums it up very well. And the first thing person said is, well, some people may disagree with this, but they've come to the conclusion, hopefully I'm not in this category, I don't think they meant me in this category, right, is that most big YouTube rabbis are not great to listen to. Right? Not great to listen to. That we don't have great teachers. You have great entertainers posing as teachers. Whatever, we're going to analyze a few of these statements. I just want to go through some of it. The person says, don't get me wrong, they're great rabbis, teach real Torah, do genuine outreach, right? You can find them on YouTube, right? Among the problematic ones, they found they're obvious, heretics, apikorsim, teach the opposite of Torah, right? That's definitely true. A lot of frauds definitely out there, right? Or aspects of Torah that aren't true, some that teach politics, as though it were Judaism, right? And call it a class. There are those who teach conspiracy theory, also call it a class. And those waste hours and hours going on about how others are heretics, how everyone's destined for Gehenna, right? They're going to find hell again, whatever, how bad other public speakers are, or whatever it may be. So basically, this person says, or whatever, quoted further, right? And that is a class, a Torah class for teaching Torah. Right? It's not a platform for, attacking others, pushing agendas, selling products, asking for donations. I mean, the person said it is okay, in some cases, but a person shouldn't feel pressured, to donate, or pushing opinions as factions, title as rabbi, or, as a crutch, give their, opinions as authority. Person mentioned, listen to lengthy, classes about political, affiliation, what they think about the vaccine, different things, but the person says, and this is really the point, that they don't learn one bit of Torah, right? They listen for hours, but they don't learn any Torah, right? Some have a cult-like following, get thousands and thousands of views, but they don't really say anything, right? We need to go directly to Shem, and when we do, listen to classes, that's, to learn Torah, and not with other agendas, right? This is what the person said. So I just want to harp on a few things, and I think what the person says on the right, hit the nail right on the head, right? But it mentions many times in different ways. People who are doing good things, giving over real Torah, we're not talking about that. Sometimes do you have to come out against someone who may be heretical and teach heretical things? Yeah. Right? You might have to do it. You spend every class doing it? Okay, it's a different issue. That's a different issue. Right? But there are people that, get a lot of views. They're entertainers, but they don't say anything. So I was speaking to someone last night, and person, one of the things I mentioned about, let's say, Reform and conservative rabbis, in general, is that, they're there to speak, right? They're there to give, quote unquote sermons. They could also, have a political agenda or other type of agenda, whatever it may be, and say what they say. But a lot of it, if not all of it, is fluff. They don't say anything, right? They don't say anything about Torah, right? So not really Torah. Now, if they are bringing in concepts that are Torah related or that are Torah, okay, right? So, apologize at the beginning if someone brings out real Torah, fine, but if you have a political agenda, leave it alone. Political agenda doesn't belong in the Torah shiur. right? In general. So, that's one thing, right? So people are doing good things and they're teaching real Torah. Very good. That's what people want. People don't want, I mean, there are people who want to be entertained. I heard someone once tell me that, that they certainly want to be entertained. I don't think there's any, they told me that straight out. I mean, then, they're not religious. They're not Orthodox Jews by any stretch, but they are, what do you call it? That's what they said. They're there to go to synagogue to be entertained. Now, that would lend me to believe they're not there to pray. They're not going to synagogue to pray. They're there to be entertained. Maybe they're there to pray also, maybe, right? But they said, I'm there to be entertained. Okay. I don't take them at face value on that. Now, they're on to teach politics as if it was Judaism, right? Now, there is a connection. There is a connection. There is a connection to what's going on in the world, in Torah. So that's not a made up thing. All right, that's not just trying to attach, the Torah portion of the week to fit into your agenda, right? To fit into politics or this and that. There are very many times that can be true, and what's going on, what's going on in the world, right? So they're not making a class, based around, oh, I just want to speak about politics, right? Not interested in speaking about politics. When it comes, let's say, to the end of days, and you're talking about Esav, and you're talking about Yishmael, right? And you're talking about, the good side of Esav or the bad side of Esav or whatever, that's not politics. That's not talking about politics here, right? That's explaining current events through what's going on, right? Through what's going on in the eyes of the Torah, right? So, I'm not sure that that's what the person meant, right? But certainly what goes on in the world, has Torah ramifications. If a person just talking about politics for the sake of politics, yeah, that for sure I'd have an issue with. If they're talking about politics in context with, well, the Torah says this, right, and the curses say this, let's say in the book of Deuteronomy or the end of the book of Leviticus, right? So, things can add up in different ways, right? By the end of the day. I'll give an example. There was a few years ago, there was a potential attack by Russia against Turkey. Yeah, because Turkey downed a Russian plane, right? Over their airspace or right, whatever the case was, and Russia threatened, right? Russia, threatened, got to deal with them and whatever. So there's a tradition. There's a tradition brought down by the Vilna Gaon, of Elijah Vilna of blessed memory, that if Russia, former Soviet Union, whatever you want to call them, if they ever invade Turkey, or if they get to Constantinople, which is Turkey, yeah, Istanbul, as it's known, yeah, you don't take off your Shabbos clothes. Now, what does that mean, you don't take off your Shabbos clothes? That means that the Messiah is imminent. That the Messiah coming is imminent. Now, people have said that Russia was in Turkey during one of the world wars, right? So I don't know exactly how that fits in, with what the Vilna Gaon said, right? I do remember, I asked my Rabbi this question. I think I asked his son this question. I think he meant right before the Messiah comes. But in either case, that's on politics here, right? That's talking about something where it has ramifications for the end of days. Yeah. So that's not talking about politics for the sake of politics, right? Give another example. There's a Medrash in Tehillim, in the book of Psalms. The Medrash says that the war of Gog and Magog, now it's a whole question if there's going to be a war. It seems according to the prophets, very clear there's going to be a war. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a war between Gog and Magog. Some say World War I, World War II took care of it. It's going to be a spiritual world in the end of days. That's one opinion, right? But, if you look at what the prophets say, and the fact that it's going to take 8 months to bury people, that sounds like a war. That doesn't sound like a spiritual world. Okay. But according to this Medrash, the Medrash says that it's going to be a war of Gog and Magog. Where's it going to start? It's going to start with the king of Paras. Where is Paras today? Iran? Right? That is where it's going to start. Now, is that far-fetched? No. Not far-fetched. Who knows? Israel's going to retaliate. What's going to be? Who knows? Could this be the beginning of the end? It could be. Could be. Now, someone, was speaking about the end of days, and they mentioned this, and they mentioned the political ramifications right now. That's not Torah. It's Torah. I don't think there's any, I don't think there's any question. The Malbim more than 100 years ago says the war of Gog and Magog. Who's Gog and Magog? So he says Gog and Magog is Edom against Yishmael, right? Esav against Yishmael. Who's Esav? The Western world. Who's Yishmael? Who's Yishmael? The Muslims, right? The Arabs. So, before 9/11, you would have said, come on. Like what's he talking about? Like, okay, very nice, but like, you missed the mark. After 9/11, it makes sense. You got a lot, very, very strong Muslim minorities, in Europe and across the globe, right? So the whole world's a part of King. Yeah. Now, the way the Malbim sets it up, right? So let's say someone's going to speak about the end of days. They go through this Malbim, right? They speak out this Malbim. Now, this Malbim has political ramifications. It's a lot of political ramifications over here. Now, the person giving the class, he doesn't have an agenda. He's not going to have an agenda over here. What's he showing? He's showing the reality of the situation right now. And the reality is, before 9/11, you never would have thought of such a thing. But now, because of everything going on in the world, it makes sense. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen that way. Could happen that way. Nobody really knows. Right? The writing seems to be on the wall. Okay, it could happen a lot of different ways. A lot of ways maybe we don't expect. Right? But so if someone's going to speak, let's say, about that topic, they're going to speak about Gog and Magog. They're going to speak about the end of days. They're going to speak about what's going to happen, with the Messiah coming. Now, if they start talking about, what's going on today politically, what's going on in the world, that's not an agenda. Right? And I don't think that's what this person meant. Right? That is giving credence to what the prophecy says. That's putting people into place of the prophecy itself. That's not a problem. That's definitely not a problem. If they would digress and spend the rest of the time or a chunk of the time just talking about politics, a different issue. But if it has the point within what you're discussing, that's not a problem. But the person saying, yeah, it's just an agenda to speak about politics. Okay, if that's the case, I agree. But it could be that politics come for another reason. Because there are people out there telling Jews to leave America. Because, and for people say this years ago, right? Not just because of what happened on October 7th. Not just what's going on in, universities, in the States, and other things going on in the world. They were saying this years ago. Saying during COVID, as well. Now, why would someone speak about that? Because they see it's a danger. There's a danger to what's going on. There's a real danger, right? Or, they think there's a real danger where Jewish lives are going to be threatened, right? And if there's no food, you can only take a certain amount. People can't make money because everything's shut down because of COVID. Who's going to get blamed? Jews, right? A lot of times Jews will get blamed. Yeah. So imagine someone goes shopping, and this was the theory. Imagine someone goes shopping, they got a big family. They buy whatever they buy. They come out of the store, they get mugged. They get mugged by a bunch of people. They steal all their food. Now, could that happen? Could happen? Is it probable on a regular basis? I don't know if I go that far. Right? And, people had a hard time during COVID. True. Wasn't going to get that far. America, just keep in mind, America's the last place that Jews have never been thrown out of. You can say about that about let's say, Australia, probably haven't been thrown out of Australia either, but most countries, Jews have been thrown out. America's the last place, right? Now, you see what's going on now, a person would say, yeah, I can see it. I can see it. Jews don't have rights. Jews are discriminated against. Nobody cares, right? Jewish blood is ownerless. So, when I tell anyone in America, any Jew in America, flee, and if you have money, own a house, something, take out the equity, sell it, buy property in Israel. It's good to buy property in Israel. I'm not going to say not. I'm not going to say you should do it either, right? Is it imminent? Some people would say, yeah, it's imminent. The writing's on the wall. Take the money and run before it's too late. So, the number of people have been saying this. Not just in recent history. This has been going for years. You can't feel comfortable in America. Someone told me after October 7th, a lot of people, instead of coming to Israel, Jews, Orthodox Jews coming to Israel, which, not an easy thing, to live here financially, other things, but they're all learning, self-defense. They're all taking, they're all getting guns. They're there for the long haul. Okay. Whatever reason, they can't come to Israel. Okay. So they're there to protect themselves. Makes sense. Right? Makes sense. But, but at the end of the day, if someone would speak, let's say, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes, or what's going on, politically, what's going on, in the cities, in the context that a Jew should be afraid for his life. A Jew should be afraid of his money because he might not be able to get your money out. Right? Is that political agenda? Right? I wouldn't see this political agenda. I understand where it's coming from. First, it's warning people. They think this could happen. This very well could happen. Right? So people should have eyes in the front of their head, not in the back of their head saying, there's writing on the wall. Try and get your money out, put it somewhere else. It could be, it's going to get shut down. It could be. Deep down, do I really think it's going to happen? It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine, but you see, anti-Semitism is up, gazillion %. Right? Because the only safe place is Israel, no question. And with all the sirens and everything else going on, I don't think there's any question. Right? That doesn't sound like, any question. The question is, though, should someone sell their house, and buy something here or whatever, and then eventually come, right? That's the question. There are people saying that you should do that. Yeah. And, that you should do that. Right? Other people would say, make sure you have livelihood here, or, you'd be able to make it here, or whatever. But other people can't leave. They got family there, got all the parents there. They can't leave. Okay. But, we're living dangerous times. Dangerous times. I would say, if someone's talking about that and the and the politics going around it and what's going on, and telling people like it's dangerous for Jews to be there, that's not a political agenda. That's not talking about politics for the sake of politics. Now, if they spend the next 2 hours just talking about politics, yeah, I can see that's an issue. That's not Torah anymore. Right? Now, again, I don't think that's what this person meant. Right? If the entire agenda is about politics, you're right, it's not Torah. If you're tying it into Torah, right, and what the Torah says applies to this, and what it represents, and what's going on in the world politically, yeah, I don't have an issue with that. I have no issue with that. I think that's very good, just the opposite. Because you see what's going on in the world and how, and what's going on, and what the Torah says. And how I can relate Torah to that. Now, someone could say, someone can extrapolate, someone can give their opinion on that. That doesn't mean it's fact. You're right. You're right. But they're saying according to Torah. Right? The Malbim. We use the Malbim as an example. Everybody holds to the Malbim. Right? He's got a commentary in Chumash. He's got a commentary, a famous commentary in Tanakh. Everybody learns. I know he's not someone that people don't hold by, or people don't learn his books. Whatever. Big rabbinic scholar. Now, what he says, what he said 100 years ago, about this war of Gog and Magog before 9/11, you would have said, okay, very interesting idea. In reality, we don't see that. The Arabs didn't have any power. They had no power. They were nomads for the most part. They didn't have any kind of power. They have oil and all this other stuff. They didn't have it. So, you look at what he says. He says, that's his theory, right? Based on whatever he based it on. Let's say that's what's going to happen at the end of the days. Okay. Is the Malbim a prophet? No. You're not a prophet. But again, even what the prophets say, it's unclear. Right? That's why the Rambam, Maimonides, says that you don't want to try and figure out when the Messiah is going to come, because if you figure it out according to your own calculation and then it doesn't happen, then you say, Messiah's not going to come, and you become a heretic. Right? We don't know. Right? Essentially, we don't know. We can make speculation. Yeah. Based on true rabbinic, sources. We can do that. That's not a problem. It doesn't mean it's true, though. Right? There's room for interpretation here. Right? There's room for interpretation over here. But at the end of the day, things are moving, in such a way that it's not unheard of. I mean, come on, Russia's Edom also. They're also part of Edom. So, again, I mentioned this before, spoke a number of times about, Russia going into Ukraine. This is not about worldwide domination. A lot of people thought, this is going to be World War III. It's going to be the end of days. Yeah, it could be. He's got nuclear weapons, all that, very good. He's interested in making Russia much stronger, back to the good old days or whatever. Is he interested in world domination? I don't think so. Right? I can be totally wrong, but I don't think so. That's not his end goal. That's definitely not his end game over here. Right? But regardless, people made that mistake. Right? Again, but you have two main elements here in the world. You have Edom, Esav, i.e. the Western world, and you have the Arabs, right? You have the Muslims, and they are going to clash, and we've seen it. They're going to clash in a major way, because the Muslims are going to say everyone deserves to die, right? As someone pointed out, they had had these I guess Muslims or pro-Muslim or whatever that living in America, burning the American flag. American citizens. I'm not talking about these migrants or whatever. It's a different issue, right? But burning the American flag. Like, you have within your own country, people want to destroy it. Yeah, so I'm not going to get into politics. That's not the point. The point is, you have a major clash between two different cultures. Yeah, between Edom and Esav, right? Esav and Yishmael. Now, could that simmer over and be a powder keg waiting to explode in the entire world? Yes, 100%. It's not just a Middle Eastern war over here. It's a war all over. All over. Now, what the Malbim says, and this is really the point, right? Without digressing, what the Malbim says is exactly what we see right now. It's exactly what we see right now. Now, the Medrash throws in another thing. The Medrash says it's going to start with Iran. Now, who's supporting all these proxies? Hezbollah, Hamas, and all them is Iran. They're the ones behind it. So the Medrash says if there's going to be a war, that's how it's going to start. They're going to put everything together. So you have a combination here. Now, could it happen in a different way? Sure. Right? Would I say the writing's on the wall in some way? Sure. That's what I think. But nobody cares what I think. Right? But this is what the Malbim puts out. And nobody says the Malbim's a crackpot. God forbid. Or the Malbim doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know Torah. Right? Yeah. They say so, so good. So the Malbim was a rabbi. So this is another thing. So someone, so the person points out, someone who's got rabbinic ordination, which people make, a much bigger deal than really what it is. But, spoke about that also. But, so he says it gives them license because they have rabbinic ordination. I'm not going to take that away from them, right? Legitimate rabbinic ordination. Okay. It gives them license to say things because they have the title rabbi. Now, rabbinic ordination, let's keep in mind, it's certainly not the same as what it was in the time of the Second Temple. We don't have that type of rabbinic ordination. Therefore, rabbis today can only judge on certain things. There are certain things they can't judge because we don't have that rabbinic ordination that goes back to the second temple, right? In the first temple. We don't have that. Now, today, rabbinic ordination means, what it really means in general, a person, passed a requisite exam on certain topics. Maybe the laws of Shabbos, maybe the laws of kashrus, right? Maybe the laws of mourning, right? Or the laws of family purity laws, let's say. Those are the main things. Kashrus, I forgot about kashrus. Those are the main 5 things that people could have ordination. Some people could have in one thing, they could have in all things, right? But again, a person, studied the material, passed whatever grade they got, they passed, right? Let's say, right? They got a passing grade. So therefore, okay, right? So now they can be called rabbi. Very good. Now, what happens, let's say they have ordination laws of Shabbos. Does that mean they could answer questions on the laws of kashrus? Now, really, a person shouldn't, because they're not expertise in that, in that topic. But let's say they have enough knowledge. Someone asked them, they took a meat fork, and stirred spaghetti, right, that had cheese in it, in a milk pot, and it was piping hot, and the pot was not used. The pot was used within 24 hours, which makes the taste even stronger. Yeah. So now there's a question. There are 3 questions here. What's the status of the fork? What's the status of the food? What's the status of the pot? Now, if somebody learns the laws of kashrus properly, right? If they learned it properly, they can probably answer that question. Because it's going to depend. It's going to depend on percentage of the cheese that was in the pots. Where did the fork hit? I mean, was it really hot? I mean, whatever. There are a lot of questions here. Let's see. If someone learned that, even if, let's say they didn't have, they didn't take a requisite exam. Now, in theory, could they answer that question? They probably could answer the question. Now, someone's going to hammer me and say, wait a minute. If a doctor, let's say they're not a doctor, but they took all the coursework. They have all the knowledge, right? But they don't have the title. But they have a lot of knowledge. Yeah, so it's probably not the same thing. Maybe it's similar. Would you go to them, would you go to that doctor? Now, most people would probably say, no, I would never go to such a doctor. Why? It didn't pass his boards, right? It didn't pass his boards. Makes sense? Right? So if someone has a certain level of knowledge, yeah, someone asks a question. I give an example. They don't give rabbinic ordination on the laws of blessings or on prayer. Let's say someone asks a question, it's a black and white answer. The black and white answer. Person wakes up in the morning, how many times you wash your hands? 3. Black and white. Yeah, how do you put on tefillin? If you're Ashkenazic one way, Sephardic another way. Black and white. Now, does the person have to be a rabbi to answer that question? No. Now, if they know the right answer, and it is the right answer, right, they could answer. Now, if someone comes to them, this person has knowledge, let's say. If it's something they could look up, give them the answer, something obvious, very good. If it's more complex, they hand it over to someone else, right? But in general, if a person only has, knowledge of one thing that they got tested on, but they didn't necessarily get tested on something else, those questions they shouldn't answer. True. They shouldn't answer. But let's say these are black and white answers. Yeah? And these things that a person would know. They can't give the answer. Why can't they give the answer? You might say, I'm not going to call them a rabbi for that. Okay. But let's say they know the answer. Right? Let's say they know the answer. Can they answer? On Passover. Yeah. Could they answer the question if they know the answer? Why not? They need to be a rabbi to answer the question? No, they don't. But if they know the answer, let's say, again, it's something black and white. How many cups of wine or grape juice do you need to drink? Everybody knows. 4. Right? How much do you have to drink? Oh, that's a difference of opinion. Very good. So a person knows and say, okay, some will say 3.5 fluid ounces, 4 ounces. Some will say you have to drink 6 ounces. Right? They're gonna say, how do I know what to do? So that person has to know what to do. Right? That person probably will not give advice. Say, if they ask your rabbi what to do. Right? And if they know, very good. If they don't know, tell them to go to someone else. Right? Or how much you're supposed to eat. Or what's the custom for this or that. That's why a person always has to have their rabbinic authority that they go to. Right now, why do I say, and I'm not going to rehash what I spoke about before, but why do I say that people give rabbinic ordination? Why do they give it? Why do they give it so much credit? Right? Why do they give it so much credit? Because they say, a person, took this exam. This is what they did. They passed the exam very good. Right? But I'll tell you. But I'll tell you, for most people, it doesn't really matter. Right? It doesn't come up in conversation, so to speak. It's like, oh, who'd you get rabbinic ordination from? Some are better, maybe some are not, whatever it may be. But even, let's say they passed, they passed some of the exam. Right? Let's say they passed 2 out of 5. They only took 2 out of 5. So you say someone who took the 5 are more authoritative. It depends. It depends. I wouldn't necessarily say that. It depends on the person's level of knowledge, right? Just because the person took the exam and they passed the exam, very good. So you say, okay, they took the exam, they didn't. Now that doesn't mean the person doesn't have the knowledge, right? Let's not make that mistake. Doesn't mean they don't have the knowledge. They for sure could have the knowledge. There's no question. They could have the knowledge. Yeah, it just means they didn't take the test. Okay, so the person say, well, I'm not going to trust what they say. Okay, right? But if they know what they're doing, they have rabbinic, they have rabbinic authorities behind them that guide them, that they can go to for questions. You can trust them. You should be able to trust them. If they say something way out or something wacky or something that seems to go against Torah, yeah, you call it into question. You call it into question. But I'm going to go on a limb here. There are some people that have rabbinic ordination, they don't have wide scope knowledge. They have a certain level of knowledge, okay? They have a certain level of knowledge. Yeah, but that is, I find it very rare. I was talking to someone this the other day. I find it very rare where you see not someone has encyclopedic Talmudic knowledge, right? I'm not even talking about that. But someone has a wide variety of knowledge about a lot of things. And they're well versed in a lot of things. Now, does that mean they know the Talmud, verbatim? No. That mean they know all the earlier commentators, later commentaries verbatim? No. There are people that do. Okay. They're in a different level. Right? Very good. Right? I'm not coming to, deny that one way or another. But the point is there are different levels, different levels of knowledge. Right. So I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, I wish there were more people. There were more people that had, a wider breadth of knowledge than being very specific. There are people out there, let's say, the laws of kashrus, they know everything about kashrus. Like, that's what their main focus is kashrus. Other people I know, someone studying the laws of family purity laws for years. Like, that's the main thing they've been learning for years. Okay, what about the other aspects of Torah? There are other parts of Torah, Shabbos, kashrus, plenty of other parts of Torah, right? But they want to be an expert in one area. Okay, right? Being an expert in one area, there is more to be said for that. You need experts in that area, right? There are aspects to that. There is what to be said for that. True. Right? That may be true. But I think people get a little bit what's the word? Carried away. And just because a person, again, maybe a bad example. But even if a person, didn't take the test on the topic, but they're well versed in the topic, does that mean they can't answer? That's a good question. right? That's a good question. And the answer should be if it's something, if it's something more complex, it probably shouldn't answer. If it's something that's black and white, like we said, right? It's something black and white. You know, Passover. What do you do after Karpas? Right? You break the middle matzah, right? It says in every Haggadah. So someone said, if someone asks the question, you can't answer. Why can't you answer that? If it's black and white. If it's more complex, I get it. What happened? He fell asleep, during the middle of the Seder for 61 minutes. I'm sorry. He almost fell asleep for an hour, in 12 minutes, and you had to eat the matzah, and okay, there are things that are more complex. More complex, right? That's why a person has to have their rabbinic scholar. They go to. So there are people that have greater knowledge, more expansive knowledge, and there are people that don't. There are people that can answer basic things, and even if they can't answer, they could probably look it up, or whatever. They'll have to ask. They'll have to ask a colleague. They'll have to ask, their rabbinic authority they go to. Ask this question: what do you do? What do you do in this case? Or what do you do, in that case? So that's okay. Because how many people today have that level of encyclopedic knowledge? At the same time, how many people today, have expansive knowledge in a lot of things, not just one specific thing? I'm not poo-pooing, specific knowledge either. Specific knowledge, you need people to have expert knowledge in certain things, right? They have to be experts in people need to be experts in certain things. Okay? Because you have to know what to do. So you have to know that topic inside and out. Okay? I'm saying that's not the only topic. There are a lot of topics. There's a lot of knowledge to be acquired, right? So part of the question was, right? I'll just address this also, which was said, and that is, people are teaching real Torah and doing genuine outreach. So that's good, right? They're doing genuine outreach. They're teaching real Torah, very good. But again, keep in mind, there are people out there, different levels of knowledge. Yeah. Someone who's doing Jewish outreach does not necessarily mean they have expansive knowledge in the entire Torah. Doesn't mean that. They could. They definitely could. Right? What I've seen is I think people are weak in different things. But, they don't have all expansive knowledge. They have a certain level of knowledge. Very good. You have to have a certain level of knowledge to be able to go out there and answer people's questions and different things. You have to have a certain level of knowledge. I came across people that had basic things they didn't know. Right? Basic things that were questions. Okay, there were answers to the questions. They had who to rely on, but they didn't even know it was a question. Right? So my question was, if you're out in the field and you're dealing with others' everyday issues, how can you not know this is a problem? How in the world can you not know it's a problem? It's a problem. Yeah, that's why a person needs guidance. There's no question. I'll give one example. There's a lot of questions there. I'll give one example. Someone I spoke to, a rabbi just starting out a few years back, and he tells me he's got this person who wants to convert, and they're going through the book Derech Hashem, right? The way of God, all about why God created the world, the purpose of man, how the evil inclination works, spiritual forces. It's a very deep book. Gave class on it twice, right? It's a very, very deep book. And, a lot of it's deep in Kabbalah. So this rabbi asked me, it's like, they're asking like this deep, like these deep, philosophical questions. So I said, okay. They said, like, what should my reaction be? I said, they want answers. This is a good book to get answers, but it's a hard book to go through. Right? It's not an easy book to go through. They thought it was strange. Here they're more looking at things more at face value, not deeper meanings into things or whatever. Right? So the person asked me, this rabbi asked me, isn't this weird? I go, why is it weird? It's not weird. They want to know, what was it like? What was the difference in the world, before and after Adam and Eve ate from the tree? Or how does the evil inclination work? Why do righteous people suffer? Why do evil people have it easy? Right? It's a basic tenet. The basic tenet in Judaism. What's the purpose of the nations? Yeah. How could a soul possibly come back to this world? Reincarnation. A lot of things, a lot of very interesting things. So I said, I'll give you free advice. I got a great idea. He goes, what's that? I go, buy the book and read it. That's what I told him. I said, go buy the book if you don't have it in stock, right? If it's not in your synagogue, start learning it. It's not an easy book to go through, but just read it. Get a deeper meaning of what's going on. That's all they're doing. They're not asking to be a heretic. They're not trying to say, oh, I want to learn Kabbalah. They're not doing that. These are deep things. I think it's deep things everyone needs to know, Jews and non-Jews. It's a game changer of a book. I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any question at all. But you need someone to teach you. It's not an easy book to go through. Granted. Yeah. So the person, those rabbis, they go all taken aback. What are they doing? It's weird. Why are they learning such, these deep fundamental things? Because they want answers. That's why they're learning it. They want to see it, what's going on with the evil inclination. How do these things work? What about spiritual force? These are things people are into. They want to know. They want to know what goes on in the world, how it works. These are fundamental things. Is it easy? No. These aren't easy topics by any stretch. But when this person taught, why would a person, learn that? Because it's a part of Torah. They want a deeper part of Torah as well. Right? They want to know why they're potentially going through what they're going through, or difficulties, or why righteous people suffer. How do you deal with it? How's the Torah perspective? It's a very good book. Which is a heart, also a very good book to go through. Okay. You'll tell me that it's a hard book to go through, and a lot of it's Kabbalah. I didn't go to the Kabbalah aspects of it. Try to bring it down to this world. Yeah, but it's a game changer. So I told them, go buy the book and read it. Right? You learn something. But it's a great book. Now, so the person said, that, if they're teaching real Torah, very good. Which I don't have an issue with, even if it's very much watered down for people to be able to digest it, okay? And they can answer questions that they ask, okay. Again, are some of these people, world-class rabbinic scholars? No. They're not world-class rabbinic scholars. Some more, some less, depends on their level of knowledge, depends how much they've learned, depends who they learn by. I mean, there are a lot of different factors here. I'm not going to throw every Kiruv rabbi under the bus. I'm not going to do that. Right? Because there are very good people out there. A lot of good people out there. Yeah. And they have good knowledge. Okay. I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is people don't have the knowledge. They can still do good things. Well, they have to know when to ask questions, when not. And you have to know when they tell you something, is that really the law, or they just have their agenda? Yeah. There's an issue wearing wigs today because of hair from India. It's a real issue. It's been an issue for many years because they use it for idolatry. So some people will say you can never wear it because you don't, all of it comes from there. Now, that's true, right? If that's true, okay. But there's also an agenda to say a woman should never wear a wig because it looks like human hair, looks better than human hair. So Sephardic people never wear it. For that reason, Ashkenazim, we have no problem wearing it as long as it's modest. It's not too long. Right? Because the point is the hair is covered, even if it looks better than human hair. It looks better than their own hair. Very good. So the difference of opinion, and not all Sephardic rabbinic authorities hold you can't wear a wig. Some, a lot of them do. Fine. Not everybody does. Yeah. Now, some people may say that is what the halacha is. It's not true. I just want to point out that is not true. Now, there are two issues here. Can a woman cover her hair with a wig? That's one issue. And today, is it even possible because of the issue the hair comes from India? Two separate issues. They're not the same issue. If you're going to tell me there's no problem with hair from India, very good. Then there's a difference of opinion. Can you wear human hair or not? That's one issue, right? But if all the hair comes from there, if that's true, and they haven't fixed the problem, then how can a woman wear a human hair, a human hair wig that's not synthetic? Now, that's a serious problem, okay? That is definitely a serious problem. Nothing to talk about. I no claim against that. But if you're going to say because of that, women shouldn't wear wigs anyway, they're two separate issues. And you have to know they're two separate issues. So anyone's going to present the issue has to say they're two separate issues, not just outright women can't wear wigs. And everybody holds women can't wear wigs. That's not true. That is not true. A lot of people, my Rebbe's based in hold women can't wear wigs. Okay, my Rebbe didn't hold that. Like someone said, oh, I bet his daughters, don't wear wigs. I said, I bet you're wrong. Because I know they do. It could be now it's an issue because, of hair from India. But where do his granddaughters get hair from? From people who cut their hair off, gave them to let's say women that, cancer treatment, and they lost all their hair. That's where they get wigs made from. Yeah, not from India, right? That's where a lot of their his granddaughters are getting wigs from. Yeah. So you want to tell me they're not wearing it? It's not true. I hear people saying things about them all the time. They don't know. And if people don't know, they should keep their big mouth shut. They don't know. Last time when I flattened them like a pancake, 3 seconds. They said, oh, I bet his daughters don't do this. Well, they do. How do I know? Because I've seen them. I've seen them with my own eyes. I wasn't tripping, right? I saw them. They have wigs. Can't say they don't. That's a lie. Oh, I bet that. You're wrong. Thank you very much. You don't know. You're wrong. Okay. Now, is today a different issue with wigs? Yeah, it's a different issue. Where's the hair coming from? That's a different issue. That's a totally different issue. But don't tell me the issue's the same. It's not. There are two separate issues. But if someone were to tell you it's all the same issue, it's not the same issue. One issue is, can they wear human hair? That's one issue. Difference between some Sephardic rabbinic authorities, not all hold that it's forbidden, right? Many of them do. And Ashkenazim rabbinic authority. And even Ashkenazi rabbinic authorities say they have to be modest. They cannot be immodest. Yet Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said such a thing. My Rebbe said such a thing. Rabbi Yosef of blessed memory said such a thing. You have plenty of Torah giants that say women can wear wigs. Period. You can't say nobody says that. It's not true. What's the issue, though? What is the issue today? Even if they would say you could, and even if you say it's modest, what about today where the hair seems to come all from India and it's idolatry? That's a different issue. We're not arguing that issue. Even Rabbi Yosef would say such a thing. Even Rav Sternbach would say such a thing. Even Rav Shlomo Zalman would say such a thing. Everybody would agree. But they're two separate issues. Yeah? Two separate issues. So now, people could be saying, oh, this is forbidden, this is permitted, and this and that. But they're only giving one side of the argument. Yeah, they're saying, according to us, this is how it comes out. Okay. But I've heard people say certain things, and it's not true. They're giving their perspective, like no one else says such a thing. It's not true. If there are people who say such a thing, they disagree. You have to say there are other people disagree. You have to say it. But we don't hold that way. Okay? I'll give an example. My Rebbe said this many times by Passover coming up very quickly, right? That for karpas, what do people use? Some people use a potato. Some people use celery, right? Some people use, I don't know. Some people use radish, but radish is a problem because radish is bitter. It's bitter, it's sharp. So that could be like that. You could probably almost fulfill your obligation with the morrow, with the bitter herb. Okay. According just about, every rabbinic authority holds, you don't want to eat, you can't eat too much of it. You should only eat like a very small amount that you would never make an after blessing on. Right? Because the whole thing, because you have to eat morrow later. You have to eat the bitter herbs later. Comes along the Vilna Gaon, Elijah Vilna, blessed memory. The Vilna Gaon says you eat more than a kazais. You eat more than an olive's volume. Now, he's a Das Yachid. He goes against everyone else. Everyone else says not that way. Okay. My Rebbe's an 8th generation descendant of the Vilna Gaon. He puts it in his Haggadah. He puts it in his halachas. That's what you should do. He said, according to the Gra, that's how we hold. Now, Everybody else holds against the growth. Everyone else disagrees. Very good. So what would you tell my Rebbe? I go according to the majority. Majority says I should only eat a little bit. Very good. What if he's been your Rebbe for 27 years? You're going to follow what he says, even if it goes according to the majority. Yeah? Even if it goes according to the majority. Person has to have their own personal rabbi. Tell them what to do. Right? So what should I do in this case? Right? Had another case. Now I'll give one other example. One other example, take questions. The other example is Shmini Atzeres. Right? The second to last day of Sukkot outside of Israel. It's really separate holiday altogether. Vilna Gaon held you're allowed to sleep in the sukkah on that day. You don't necessarily eat in the sukkah. You eat part of the meal in the sukkah, but you don't eat the whole meal in the sukkah. Right? To show you it's not really part of sukkahs. But he holds you can sleep in the sukkah on that day. Now, other rabbinic authorities disagree because it's not part of sukkahs anymore. It's not part of sukkahs anymore. So when I lived in New Jersey, so that's why I called up my rabbi asking this question. So he said when I was in South Africa and I was there during the holidays, I tried to sleep in the sukkah if it didn't rain. Right? I tried to sleep in the sukkah. Right? Because they hold like the Vilna Gaon mostly. So I said, if you're a student of an 8th generation, descendant of the Vilna Gaon, yeah, you can also sleep in the sukkah. Now, no one in America does it. No one in America does it. So I asked him what to do. So he said, you can sleep in the sukkah. So it came out, I was there for 3 years. 2 out of 3 years it rained. 2 out of 3 years it rained, so I couldn't do it. People know, but, Orthodox Jews, they're like, why would you sleep in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres? Because the Vilna Gaon said you should. And my Rabbi is the 8th generation descendant of the Vilna Gaon. And I hold what he says, and I asked him, and that's what he said. Now, what can they answer on that? Nothing. They can't say anything. Why? You ask, he's the Torah giant. He is the Torah giant of the generation. You don't go wrong. He told you what to do. That's what you do. But again, if you were to ask any local rabbi, right? This is the point. You would ask any local rabbi, yeah? As long as they know what they're doing. You would ask them that question. Are you allowed to sleep in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres? What would the overwhelming answer be? No. You're not allowed to sleep in the sukkah. What about the Vilna Gaon? Okay, the Vilna Gaon is a minority opinion. We don't hold like the Vilna Gaon in that case. True. Everyone would agree. Nobody holds like the Vilna Gaon in that case. Okay. My Rabbi happens to be a descendant of the Vilna Gaon. So he holds like him. He's got broad shoulders to hold like him. So if I ask him the question, am I allowed to do it? He could have said, no, go like the majority. Forget about the Gaon. Right? Forget about what the Gaon says. He could have said that. Easily could have said that. I asked him, would I be allowed to sleep in the sukkah according to the Quran, according to what the Rav says? He says yes. Now, you can't argue on that. You can't argue on that. Now, if a Kiruv rabbi went behind the ears would say such a thing, they'd hammer him. They would hammer him. They said, what are you talking about? Nobody sleeps in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. Right? You want to tell me according to the Gra? He's a Das Yachid. He's a lone opinion. Everyone else holds against him. Right? So he gave that advice. He's giving wrong advice. He's giving wrong advice. Yeah. So you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful where the information, comes from. So the last point is, and I already made the point, I just want to finish here, right? And that is that if a person's listening and they feel all they're getting is politics and not getting Torah, and they say, listen, I sat there and listened, a couple of hours, very good. I didn't hear any Torah. All I heard was people being put down. All I heard was about politics. If the politics are being connected to what the Torah says and its current events, to be able to show what's going on through the eyes of the Torah, I don't have an issue with that. But if they spend the rest speaking about politics, yeah, I would have an issue with that. There's no point. Okay, you made your point, move on. You didn't make your point for 10 minutes, okay. You made your point, what the Torah says, you built the whole thing around it. Very good. I don't necessarily have an issue with it unless the whole thing is about that. Right? So you got to be careful. Some people could have a real cult following and, people get tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of views. Okay. Question is what they're saying. Is what they're saying, is it just, does it have to do with Torah or not? Right? That's a valid point. I've also heard some people talk and I'm like, so what's the point? What are they getting at? I'm not hearing Torah here. But most times I would say, the point is being made. It is being made in the context of Torah, so I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. Someone's going to spend the entire class telling what level of hell you're going to go to and you never get out of it, this and that, and then not speaking about Torah, that I have an issue with. Everyone knows I have an issue with that. Okay. Other people feel they have a need to do it. Fine. I do it also when I have to do it. When I have to do it. Right? I don't make a point of every second doing it. They want to do it because, I don't have an issue with it. That's their choice. But the main thing is to get Torah. That's the main thing. You want to listen to Torah, right? Okay, I know this person's heretic, so why bring it up? Because there's a point I need to make. There's something else I need to make about the person. Okay, you make your point, you move on, right? But sometimes what happens? You just keep going on and on and on. That's, so that was a very good post. That was I just wanted to explain a little bit of background there and that post. Torah says we need to hear Torah, what Hashem says, what's going on. First step when Syria entered Syria. When Russia entered Syria. Again, what's going on? What's going on over there? They got their hands in it. Remember, Esav is Russia. Syria is Muslim. I don't know, whatever level, Muslim. And they're helping back them into other things and getting their nose, into other things. It's very complex, right? The whole thing is very complex, all these relationships. But again, keep in mind one thing. Why do these things happen? Because God has a greater picture. Turkey is not a world power by any stretch. This guy, in Turkey shoots off his mouth all the time. They got no power. They got zero power. So they shot down, a Russian plane, like, their God's gift to the earth. Russia could have really, forget Ukraine, could have flattened them like a pancake, right? I mean, Syria's not a world power. Sorry, Turkey's not a world power by any stretch. Not by any stretch at all. And that's like the ultimate in the chutzpah. They didn't listen to us. We warned them, we shot them down. Okay, you're shooting down, it doesn't matter if, your friends, you're somewhat friends, whatever. You're shooting down, a plane or someone, over there. I mean, you're playing with fire. Even if you want to show your strength or whatever, you're playing with fire. Now, could that have led to something real? Sure. Absolutely could have. But the point is, what does that have to do with Torah? Because there's a tradition that if Russia goes into Turkey, that's the end of the world. There's a tradition. There is such a thing. So there's what to be said for it. Definitely what to be said for it. But the fact, you're right, the fact that Russia's there, Russia's got his hand in other things going on, yeah, that's a problem. That's a definite problem. I mean, Russia's pretty upset at, certainly in Israel because Israel's come out for Ukraine, or they feel they should have been pro-Russia, instead of being on sidelines or whatever. Right. So, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of things, going on that you have a lot of interesting pieces here. How the pieces are going to be meted out and what happens in the end, it's anybody's guess, right? My guess is just as good as anyone else's. Just because I have a title doesn't matter. Anyone can have, better analysis than me. Yeah. But if you see what the Malbim said and you see what's going on, and you see what the Medrash says, I think that's what's going to happen eventually. Eventually, the writing's on the wall. But again, it doesn't mean it has to happen that way. Not only that, it's brought down that the Jews aren't even going to be in Israel. The Messiah is going to come. He's going to take the Jews from the desert. They're going to be thrown out. It's a question if that's literal. If you take that literal or it's a metaphor. But in either case, my everyone was telling me this. I was taking him somewhere. He told me this. He said, yeah. He says the Medrash that says the Jews aren't going to be there. And what's going to happen? What's going to happen? The Jews are going to be in the desert. And the Messiah is going to come and take all the Jews from the desert, bring them into Israel. So he had this big smile. So I looked at him like, what are you smiling about? I said, you're also going to be in the desert. I said, the Rab's also going to be in the desert. What's going to be? No, just that, So, is that literal? Is it figurative? It's a good question. See, these things are hard to understand. They're very, very hard to understand and put it in practical terms. Very, very hard. Right? So that's why it's hard to figure out what's going to be by the end of days. But you got a lot of very interesting things going on. A lot of very, very interesting things, going on. So listen, if, they say now Israel's not going to retaliate until they say after Passover, if they're going to retaliate against Iran, this could be a huge thing. And America's going to say you shouldn't retaliate Others in Israel say we shouldn't retaliate, but like, we'll see. An enemy sends 300 missiles, and drones, a lot of miracles. Someone was telling me the other day, a lot of the things that they use to take down the drones and the missiles, they never used before. This technology they never used, and it worked like clockwork, knocked them all down, right? And pretty unbelievable. But, an enemy does that, you look weak if you don't answer. But if you do answer, if you do go and attack them, they got Hezbollah, they got Hamas, they got proxies all over, and Hezbollah has hundreds of thousands of missiles, can hit anywhere, certainly anywhere in Israel. That could, tremendous, everyone's afraid, could tremendously escalate what's going on here. Could. What's going to be? Don't know. Got a front row seat. Who knows? Right? Nobody knows. But retaliation could be at a real price. I mean, they said 300 of these missiles like nothing. They got plenty of them. They're not lacking, even if it takes 2 hours to get here. Doesn't matter. Right? These things are really powerful, and like to knock them out before they get into Israeli war space. I mean, is it's pretty remarkable in a lot of ways, right? But yeah, this whole thing could escalate. It could be, who knows? So we're living in very very interesting times. Or let's say Israel does nothing and things settle down, maybe. And then Israel goes into Rafah, see who's going to be there. To ask Hamas stronghold, then see what's going to be. Right? Even though America's jumping up and down, other places are jumping up and down. Again, they go in there. It's not about politics here. They go in there. This is a powder keg here. For the whole world. So again, is that a sign this could be the end to end all things? And everyone's going to jump in. You got the Americans, you got the Brits, you got even Jordan, for goodness sakes, knock down missiles. Could be this the whole beginning? Sure, it could be. For sure, it could be. Will it be? Anybody's guess. Right? It's anybody's guess. But again, according to the Malbim, what we see, I think that, I would say the writing's on the wall. It doesn't have to be that way either. And the Vilna Gaon himself, his students said, there's a tradition, everybody says, in the name of the Vilna Gaon, that his students said that there's going to be a war of Gog and Magog, only going to take 12 minutes. Now, the Vilna Gaon lived more than 250 years ago. Yeah. The Vilna Gaon was already, foreseeing, a nuclear attack, some sort of nuclear attack. Yeah. Because how can you have a war in 12, in 12 minutes? So it's gonna be a nuclear attack or missiles or whatever. Right? So if it's missiles, I can understand, then the prophet says it's gonna take 8 months to bury people because it's gonna be, this nasty thing. If it's a nuclear war, it's just ashes and people just disintegrate. Right? It sounds like one of these bad sci-fi movies. But you can have that also. So, but this is what the Vilna Gaon said more than 250 years ago. Now, more than 250 years ago, people would have, if we would have said 150 years ago, people would have said, come on, that's what the Vilna Gaon said. Okay, let's see. Let's see what's going to be. And then we see it in fruition. We see it years ago. It's years later that it comes to fruition. Someone asks, 1 second, isn't it a set portion of the cup across the board? That's a different issue. Say when you wash your hands. Yeah. Everyone agrees. Everyone agrees. You got to wash your hands 3 times. 3 times in the morning. That's pretty clear. Right? 4 cups of wine or grape juice. Pretty clear. Right? Question is how much you have to drink. Okay. Right? But again, there are certain things that are black and white. And if they're black and white, there's a whole question. Can you answer a question in the same city your Rebbe lives in? Or do you have to ask him permission? So if it's something obvious, it's black and white, you don't have to ask permission. If it's something that you could answer, you don't have to ask permission. Yeah? If it's other things, you don't have to ask permission. That's what the Gemara says. To show respect. Really, they should go to him. Right? Why should you answer? Right? So, if he would say, okay, you have enough knowledge, you could answer, no problem. Or not, send it to me, send it somewhere else, someone, it shows disrespect. That's what it does. But if it's something obvious, yeah, anyone can answer. Right? Anyone can answer. Yeah, somebody asks, we feel like a human part of the body, right? Some of us look at other women. Again, what's the problem? What are some Sephardic rabbinic authorities, going to say that why women shouldn't wear wigs? Because they're more beautiful than the hair itself, than their own hair. Okay? Right? That's legit. That's legit. But there are plenty of big Ashkenazic rabbinic authorities, if the wig is modest, since it's covering the hair, that's what it does. Even if it looks better than human hair, but it's modest, then you're allowed to. Then you're allowed to. It's not a problem. Not an issue. Right? But if people are going to stare and this and that, yeah. Right? But again, I once asked somebody, I used to see them with a beret or with what do you call it? A scarf. One day I saw them with hair. I'm like, oh, what's the matter? You don't cover your hair anymore? And she went like this. She moved. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell it was a wig. Yeah. So, does that mean if someone's got human hair, they got beautiful hair, that someone might stare? Yeah, I can hear that. I can hear that. But that doesn't mean it's forbidden. Right? It still doesn't mean it's forbidden. Yeah. Those rabbinical authorities say, yes, it is. Okay. There are very, very big rabbinic scholars. Rabbi Yosef, Rosh Hashanah, and Auerbach, Ramosh Sternbuch, they hold you can. They hold you can. As long as it's modest. As long as it's not too long. So I don't care what anyone says. You can say, okay, I got this great Sephardi rabbi, that other great Sephardi rabbi. Oh, great. So you get other great people that say different. Good. That means you have a difference of opinion among rabbinic authorities. Great. Rabbi Yosef was the Torah giant of the last generation. Rosh Zalman, Auerbach, Zatzal, blessed memory, was the Torah giant of the last generation. Moshe Sternbuch Shlita should be also the Torah giant of the generation. You're going to say they're all wrong? Can't say they're all wrong. You can say there are other great rabbis disagree. Okay. I don't have an issue with that. But they all agree that if it's modest and someone stares at it, it's not their problem. It's not their fault. Even if that would be the case. Because their hair is covered. Right? Because their hair is covered. Now, some people would say, people are going to look at it. Okay. That doesn't mean it's forbidden. Right? Don't misinterpret. That doesn't mean it's forbidden. If it's modest, it's not forbidden. Someone looked at it, it's their fault. And someone's wearing a beautiful scarf and they look. It's the same thing, isn't it? You gotta say, no, but it's real hair. Okay. To each their own. I understand he has that opinion. Okay. Other people disagree. He's not the only opinion. My Rabbi would disagree. Rabbi Lasher would disagree. And both of them could flush him down the toilet. They could totally flush him down the toilet and they would agree. They're not on that level at all. Where's Rav Avadia Yosef on their level? Yeah. Is Rav, Abba Ben Sion's show on their level? Yeah. I don't have an issue if they disagree. I don't have an issue if they disagree with Rav Yosef. I don't have they disagree with Rosh Hashanah and Orba. Or my Rabbi. They're on the level. Okay. I don't have an issue, but you can't say there's no one on the other side. That's a lie. That's an outright lie. Yeah. Because there are people that hold not like them. Right? Listen, they can say it very strongly. They can say this is what it is, and what a cop. They can say whatever they want. There are great Torah giants. I'm not talking about little guys here like me. There are big Torah giants that think that and believe that and held that way. Can't poo-poo them and say, well, no one else holds that way. It's not true. I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I'm not saying that's what he's doing at all. He's making it very strong. No one should ever wear wigs. Okay? Yeah. Or someone would say, you're allowed to. Women are allowed to, as long as it's modest. Rabbi Yosef held the same thing. You want to tell me these are pushovers? They were the Torah giants of the generation. Right? You can't just say nobody holds with that, and that is totally forbidden. It's not. First of all, that's not true. And second of all, you want to tell me it's an issue of idolatry and wigs from India, getting hair from India, that's another issue. That's a different issue. Totally different issue. Don't mix the issues. That's a totally different issue. Someone here says when from India cut their hair, they off right. It's a whole controversy that's never been fixed. It's never been, it seemingly hasn't been fixed. It's a similar problem. Or someone told me when when this whole thing came out a few years ago, or whatever, he said the problem never stopped. The problem's been the same since it's been 20 years ago. It's been the same issue. Yeah. But again, these are very different issues. Whether you're allowed to wear it or not is something else. Coming from India is a different issue. That everyone agrees is a problem. Right? That's very good. America refused to give Israel the ally codes. Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot going on. I'll just say again, I'm not gonna, get into politics. Israel's on a short leash, a very short leash, and few workers got killed in an attack. Everyone jumped up on the, America's got to get out. Sorry, Israel's got to, Israel has to get out, and they have to have a ceasefire. That's suicide. They got to finish the job. Finish the job is going to be a big mess. What you do afterwards, also a bigger mess. Yeah, there's one last stronghold they have to go after. They have to go in. They have to go in, but you see, problem is it's a double-edged sword. America went into Iraq, hundreds, thousands of civilians were killed. Anyone say anything? No. You got to finish the job over here. I mean, a lot of soldiers, God forbid, are going to die also, but you got to finish the job. Right? Anyone else would just go in there and plaster them. They wouldn't even ask questions. They bomb every single place, wherever these cockroaches are. You just bomb the whole place. Whoever dies, dies. It's a terrible thing to say. Innocent people, quote unquote, are going to die. True. You got to bomb the whole place. That, put up a McDonald's, call it even. That's the only way. Yeah, it's not like a fascist, but it's the only way to deal with them. A lot of civilians going to get killed in the process. What are you going to do? That's war. It's a terrible thing to say, but that's war. So they're going to die, but you got to finish. Goodness sakes, you got to finish the job. That's the only way to do it. That's definitely the only way to do it. Anyone claim against Americans? I'm sure they did. When they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I'm sure a lot of people, tens of thousands, millions of people, killed, and all that. That stopped the war. That saved tens of thousands of people from dying, from American, from the Allies. Sure. Yeah, but some people say, but look what it did, and stop the war. Bottom line, stop the war. So yeah, there's a lot of controversy with that also. A lot of controversy to do such a thing, but to save tens of thousands of lives, more. And so, is that a moral thing to do? Yeah, that's a good question. It's a good question. You kill the enemy before they kill you, so it's a good way to stop it. Otherwise, you're going to have, hundreds of thousands of more deaths. We're going to say, but, it's only the army, it's not the civilians. Okay, but war is war. No one wants to hear that. War is war. Innocent people, quote unquote, are going to get killed. That's what happens. And that they bring it on, whatever happens, that's what happens. You see it all over the world. It's horrific. Horrific. A lot of people killed in Rwanda, 20 years ago. A million. More than a million people. They weren't what do you call it? They weren't all in the army for sure. A lot of civilians. Anyone care? Anyone bat an eyelash? No. And what went on in Yugoslavia, massacres, this and that. No one said anything. Maybe some did. But what, very interesting. America got involved in Kuwait. Why they get involved in Kuwait? And get rid of Saddam because he was going to take over 70% of the oil. That's a different issue. That's a different issue. They thought they had to get involved. Even they didn't find weapons of mass destruction. That's a whole other thing. But again, there's a greater good over here. The greater good is, you're getting rid of these people. Innocent people will get killed. True. You do what you can. You do what you can not to kill, innocent civilians. But what are you supposed to do? Someone asks, if my father's Ashkenaz, should I go with Ashkenaz? Yeah. If a person wants to change and they want to be Sephardic, right? Someone who converts or someone, is about tshuva, they want to change traditions, they're allowed to. But you can't go back and forth. In other words, really you should keep the tradition of your father. If your father's Jewish, is Ashkenaz, Jewish, be Ashkenaz. If you don't like Ashkenaz, you want to change, you could. No one's saying you can't change, but I will say, if you're going to change, then you don't flip-flop. Either you're going to be Ashkenazic or you're going to be Sephardic. Let's say you change to be Sephardic, you don't like it, you want to go back to Ashkenaz. Fine, but you can't flip flop. Can't keep going back and forth. Right? That's what I would say. And I would say though it's better to be Ashkenazic to keep the tradition of your family. Right? Keep the tradition of your father, even though you're really not Jewish. Right? That would probably be the best thing. But again, if you don't like Sephardic Ashkenazic tradition, you'd rather be Sephardic, you're allowed to. Right? You're definitely you're definitely allowed to. You just can't flip flop back and forth. Some Jewish women shave their heads after getting married. Yes, among some Hasidic sects. Is the vast majority? No. Right? It's only among certain Hasidic sects, but it's not the majority by any stretch. It's not the majority of married Orthodox women. So someone here asked about donning tefillin, putting on tefillin. It's not how you do it, but that you do the mitzvah. Yeah, you got to do it the right way, right? You got to do it, the right way. The majority, the halacha is the parchment you put into the tefillin goes according to Rashi. We all go according to Rashi. Now, there's some people that will wear tefillin from Rabbeinu Tam, right? It just means different order of the parchment, and after they pray or right after they say Shmoneh Esrei, they'll take off that tefillin and put on other tefillin. As well, most people don't. A lot of Sephardic people, have two sets of tefillin. Most people have one set of tefillin. If you're Ashkenazic, normally you have one set of tefillin. I didn't take a survey, but I mean, if you're Hasidic, a lot of Hasidic people also have two sets. Again, there's difference of opinion which part goes in where, by the tefillin itself, right? So some have the tradition according to Rashi, right? That's the main tradition we hold by, and there's another tradition by his grandson by Rabbeinu Tam, right? So can someone do both? Yeah. Do a lot of people do both? I mean, there's a significant amount of people that that certainly do both. But again, we're both. But again, Ashkenazi tradition has a certain way of putting them on. Sephardic tradition a little bit different way, putting them on. But that's okay, because you're going according to one or the other, right? That's what I would, that's what I would say. So whatever tradition the person's going to follow, okay, you follow them. You don't make a mishmash. You do, whatever tradition you're going to do, that's what you're going to do, right? That's what you're going to do to the best of your ability. Right, that's what I would say. That is fair to say. Is it wrong for unmarried women to wear a scarf for modesty? Unmarried women shouldn't cover their hair, because then they give it off a premise that they're Jewish and they're married. So yeah, unmarried women should not cover their hair. If you have a sauce that has no milk but does have lactic acid, that's a milk byproduct. Yeah, it can't be eaten with meat. Cannot be eaten with meat. That is true. I mean, lactic acid is a milk byproduct, right? As far as I know. Some say it's not dairy. Okay, so my bad here. One second. One second. Let me see. Lactic acid and lactose is a well-known example. Lact means milk in Latin. And indeed, lactose is sugar that actually occurs in milk. Or it's a derivative of whey, whatever, it's derived from milk or whey. Very good. Question the bacteria from milk sugar, i.e. lactose, produces lactic acid. Okay, so that makes milk sour. Okay, certain bacteria, very good. Now the question is, so practically it's not. Actually, it doesn't seem like it is. Right? So you have to know. You have to know if it really comes from, if it really comes from a milk byproduct or not. If it doesn't, which it seems some doesn't, right? Then then you can eat it with meat. Otherwise not. Yeah, and in most cases, it seems like it's not a problem because the bacteria that produces it really comes from glucose, right? It's really glucose, the byproduct of glucose, not really from milk, right? So in that case, yeah, it should be all right. According to that, it should be all right. Again, it depends, if it comes from that, I don't know if it all comes from that, I have to do more research, but if it all comes from glucose, then you wouldn't have a problem. If some of it does and some of it comes from, really from milk, then yeah, then you wouldn't be allowed to. Is it wrong for an unmarried woman to wear a scarf? Yes. She doesn't want to give off the fact that she's Jewish, that she's married, right? An unmarried woman should not wear a scarf or a beret or whatever to cover her hair, right? Even if she was married, let's say she's married and divorced, right? So that marriage, according to us, doesn't really mean anything. Even if they convert, so after they convert, they have to cover their hair. No. If they get remarried, then they have to cover their hair. But since the marriage is not a real marriage, right? In general, right? Even though living is no hides, doesn't really matter. But they're not Jewish, so that wouldn't apply. That's what wouldn't apply, and they shouldn't cover their hair. What if you know you have Jewish roots? None of your family is practicing, so you can do whatever you want. I would say if you know you have Ashkenazic roots, you just stay Ashkenazic. But basically, if you have Jewish roots, you can basically pick your customs. But if you're going to pick your customs again, either pick them according to Ashkenazic tradition or Sephardic tradition. Don't mix and match. Either go one way or go the other. That's the point, right? You don't want to mix and match, right? You want to stay one way or the other. How do you make a decision? You see, right? You see what what you enjoy. You can try both. You can certainly try both. Doesn't mean you have to make a decision straight away, but you should. Right? You should see how it goes. How do you make that decision? You have to see. You have to see if it's good for you. If that tradition fits in and it's good for you. I would say if a person does have, let's say, Ashkenazic tradition, I would say you're probably better off staying trying to stay according to Ashkenazic tradition. Right? That's what I would say. If a person, let's say my case, I grew up Ashkenazic, yeah, but my parents weren't religious, so I can pick any traditions I want. I'm not going to be Sephardic per se, right? I'll pick within Ashkenazic tradition. If I didn't like Ashkenazic tradition, I'd be Sephardic, right? But I can pick those different traditions. It's not a problem, right? For a lot of things, because you have no tradition, so you can pick whatever tradition you want, right? But again, my point is you got to be consistent. Either be Ashkenazic and do what Ashkenazic tradition is, or Sephardic. Don't mix. Shouldn't mix. In general, there are some people that like some Hasidic traditions, even though they're very Ashkenazic. Okay, certain things, right? But again, you got to hold according to the majority of the traditions. That's where you came from. As far as my family, but for Ashkenaz, okay, right? Again, a person, if you don't have a tradition, you can choose. You can choose. You shouldn't be a hybrid. Either you're gonna pick one way, you're gonna pick the other way, right? You can't flip flop. You cannot, you cannot go back and forth, right? That's what I would say. You cannot go back and forth, right? You should stay one way or the other. Yeah. Any other questions? 1 second. Someone asked about it means something bad. What is the spiritual meaning behind it? Depends what it is. Depends what a person does. It's if you're talking about mixture of milk and meat, so we don't know why. We don't know the reason behind it, right? It's a law we don't necessarily understand. What we call chok. Here's the interesting thing though, because if it really comes from a milk byproduct, then it should be fine, right? Then definitely should be fine. If it really comes from glucose, it's not a milk byproduct, then yeah, you don't have an issue. Then you have an issue. Again, I'll mention one thing. Finding spiritual reasons behind certain things is not so easy. It's not so easy. Things that are brought down, versus bad character traits, what it leads to, and this and that, what they spiritually have to fix up. Okay, right? But other things we go through, we might make our own mistakes and face repercussions that way, and yeah, it could be lacking in it could be a person's lacking in emunah, it could be a person lacking in other things. Depends, right? Depends what the subject. It depends what the thing. Someone asks, you're asking why anti-Semites target Ashkenazim. So many bring down that the Holocaust and the Enlightenment didn't affect Sephardic people. Why not? Because they were very, very meticulous in the way they treated the sanctity of a synagogue. Right? That's what they did. They treated synagogues with unbelievable sanctity. Because they did that, many rabbinic authorities hold that's why the Holocaust didn't happen to them. That's why they weren't affected that way. That's why they were not affected. They weren't affected by the Enlightenment or anything else for exactly that reason. Right? So it could be, again, my conjecture here, but it could very well be that because of that, anti-Semitism doesn't hit them as much. But again, I would say like this: if a person outrightly looks like an Orthodox Jew, they've had a jacket, a beard, whatever. Doesn't matter if they're Ashkenazic or Sephardic. Sephardic person can get slapped upside the head also. Why? Because they look like an Orthodox Jew. They're not going to discriminate. But again, why did the Holocaust Enlightenment not hit them? Not hit Sephardic people? So my Rabbi brought this down. I've heard other great rabbis bring this down because they were very, very meticulous in the honor, in the decorum of a synagogue. Not to speak during, when they pray, and have proper decorum in the synagogue. Right? That's the reason. Is there a spiritual reason? Yeah. Esav hates Yaakov. That's the reason. That's the reason there's anti-Semitism. And that's never going to stop, no matter how many Noahides are made in the world. That's never going to stop till the coming of the Messiah. That's the spiritual reason. Esav hates Yaakov. That's it. It's never going to end. It's never, ever going to end. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone there says the Sephardic person will hit back. Yeah, could be. Could very well be. Someone said your mom's side they didn't eat fish and milk. Yeah. So some Sephardic people don't do that. Not all. But some Sephardic people don't eat fish and milk. That is true. That is definitely true. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel Time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There, I got videos on the Torah portion of the week. I'm very behind the Q&As, Ethics for Our Fathers, Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. Wish everybody a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day, depending where you are, and everyone have a great